I did beautiful projects for famous people, for politicians, for head of countries and governments and museums and the Vatican and beautiful hotels. I was lucky enough to really be able to succeed in that way and economically. I found out right away that it's not just about the craft of creating the art piece itself. It will last a lifetime. So. My name is Danilo Bonazza. I'm from Maria di Ravenna, considered the capital of the world for mosaic tiles. We have the most beautiful and ancient history about that. Everybody knows the Byzantine mosaics. The name Byzantine comes from the original name of my hometown. The original name of Ravenna in Latin during, the Roman Empire was Byzantium. Why Byzantine art, which is the Byzantine mosaics, known all around the world, they're named after my hometown of Ravenna. So
Wow.
My mother says, 4 years old. I was surrounded by all this art all over, churches and museums and shops and stores and bars and everywhere. Ravenna, we have mosaics. I was always super curious about colors and this little tessera, these little chips. And I was stealing my father's empty bottles of wine when I was 4 or 5 and breaking them down in pieces and putting all the pieces together in the sand and making animals and, superheroes and landscape, stuff like that. And then getting beat up by my father because I broke bottles of wine. But all the beatings, God did not stop me. So it was a necessity for me to just keep going. And I faced all the challenges that a regular artist faces. Obviously, one of the biggest challenges that I faced, we're talking about late 80s, early 90s. I was a teenager. And at that time, especially in Italy and Europe in general, not a lot of people wanted to invest a lot of money in bathrooms and that kind of stuff. At that time, it was uncommon. The bathroom was considered just a small little place when you were going to do like your dirty duties and nothing else. Then mentality started changing. I was knocking on the doors of all the artists, the architects and designers, and to try to find clients, and nobody wanted to do it because it was too expensive. So I was doing little paintings in mosaics, and for maybe the grandmother that wants a little painting of her niece and things like that, which, didn't pay the bills. So I had to do side jobs. I was, bricklayer and then waiter and other things to just put the money together to reinvest in mosaics. And hopefully, one day good things will happen. But I struggled for so many years and I was so close to quit. I would say 3 times. But fortunately, I'm very stubborn and I really believed in myself, even though pretty much not a lot of people did, especially my family. They were really against me. So I moved out very young, living on my own and just hoping that I will be right and everybody else was wrong. And I can fairly say that that's what it is. I'm, pretty successful today. Business is going really well. It's been like that for so many years. I did projects in countries. Beautiful projects for famous people, for politicians, for head of countries and governments and museums and the Vatican and beautiful hotels and stuff like that. So I was lucky enough to really be able to succeed in that way, and economically, I'm doing really well as well. So I'm pretty happy and
really, you're a technician too, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be if you want to make sure that what I create will last the test of time. That's why over the years, especially doing pools, I specialized in creating my mosaics for pools, and then we can get into why. But I found out right away that it's not just about the craft of creating the art piece itself. It will last a lifetime. So that's why I became a technician in using special cement to do the preparation of the surfaces, and then using the right waterproofing materials and techniques, and then some little epoxy products that are my favorite.
Really?
I was bringing elliptical materials, smuggling it into the United States suitcases because I couldn't find it in the States. And then finally, Kurt decided to import it, and then I started buying it from him. But originally, I was still using it. I was using it before moving to the United States. I was using it from Europe and Middle East. So when I was doing some projects in the States, I was just traveling with a bunch of suitcases and just smuggling in and all that stuff.
You're like a renegade in a lot of ways.
I am a little bit. Yeah, I faced a lot of different weird challenges and things over the years because today we kind of like, the perfect game that we know from start to finish and being able to make sure that everything works well. But it's been a wild ride.
I can imagine.
In the 90s, when I started doing pools, nobody had a clue, to be honest. There was no perfect system. There was no Google.
Right.
So I was going through my hometown libraries and trying to find some magazines or like books that were talking about waterproofing in a pool and this and that. And I was doing a lot of testing myself and trying to select a bunch of different products that the local tile stores were selling. Some were failing miserably. Some others were a little more decent, but I mostly took over on my experimenting and doing things in my workshop and see what will work better and then applying it into my project.
It's almost like having to be a mad scientist on top of an artist and everything else, right?
I mean, a lot of experimenting for sure. A lot of testing, a lot of hoping, a lot of okay, let's see how it works. And sometimes really having no clue of the result. But that's why I was doing a lot of testing on my own and see what will work and not. And some were failures. And then I decided, okay, I can't use this material. Let's try another one. And so we're like, okay, this has a shot of working. So let's experiment a little more, a little further, a little more extreme, and then temperatures and things like that until I was pretty confident. It's like, okay, I think I'm ready to try this in a pool. And
right. Because of all that, like the weight of the water and all the other elements that come into play with what you've got to consider.
Yeah. Well, so a pool becomes its own environment with its own climate. There's pressure water, there's extreme humidity, and then there's also outside temperature, the sun that hits it and not. So there's a lot of elements that make a difference in a swimming pool tile or regular environment. Even a shower doesn't even get close to what a pool is because the shower, it's wet, but it's temporarily wet. Like you don't have water constantly 24 hours. You take a shower for 10 minutes and then it drains out. So it's challenging, but a swimming pool, it's a constant water all the time with pressure. Plus, again, the elements, the sun, and then freezing in wintertime.
Oh yeah.
So it's I believe the most challenging environment for tile applications on Earth. And
I can imagine.
It depends where you are. Obviously, I did projects in Saskatchewan in Canada where in wintertime goes to -30.
Oh my gosh. I know. I mean, that sounds incredible. It's great for the cold plunge though, if you're into that, right? It's supposed to be really good for your body.
It's not good for the tiles though, unless you really use certain materials and applications and techniques. So I consider myself extremely lucky. Lucky is always a component. It's not the only one, obviously. I tried as much as I could to attract luck. And I believed I jumped on trains when they were passing by and I was not scared. And sometimes was, challenging and difficult and risky, and I made mistakes, obviously. I believe that after every mistake, if you're able to get on your feet and, you could be stronger than before. So mistakes are always a very good thing. If you learn.
That's so true. I think a lot of people get, they're, a little self-conscious about making mistakes because they might be perceived a certain way, but that's the reason why, like, one of my questions is, along with your biggest achievements, what was the craziest mishap or mishaps that you've had? Because that is the way we learn and deepen
Yeah.
our conviction to get better or to,
Well, to be
forego some of that.
honest, yeah, my biggest issues were economically.
Mhm.
Not really failure in the projects themselves. I had a couple little things happening here or there, but then you go back and you fix it. You take responsibility to what you created, and you make sure that then everything will be okay. Because having
Mhm.
you build your name, you want to keep it. While not everybody does that. I've seen plenty of people doing a project and then not caring about it anymore.
Mhm.
I've been a mistake in the long run. So the biggest issues were not that, but the biggest issues to me were like really economically. Uh, I've been underpaid, and for many many years, and I let some people from like some companies really take advantage of me because I was not the smartest businessman as far as protect myself legally and make sure that nobody would be able to take advantage of me, and they did
Right.
plenty of times. So I learned that aspect of the business, which is a very important one. It's not just creating art pieces; it's make sure that you're protecting yourself in any aspect of it, economical and bureaucratical, and um, that way. And it took me many years, especially when I moved to the United States. It's a much bigger challenge than in Europe.
Really?
Yeah, here, like everybody, tries to. It's really more about the money in the United States. So every time you leave like an opening, someone is taking advantage, hoping that
Mhm.
it will take advantage and making money on you using maybe your skills, but your name is not shown anywhere. It happened to me many times, especially with a couple of big companies, and I definitely learned over the years to make sure that no, I need to protect
That you're
myself.
covered.
Yeah, I need to make
Yeah.
sure that okay, if I'm doing this, my name has to be shown. I want to make sure that people know that I did it and not somebody else.
Right.
So I learned that the hard way.
You can put out ideas that people will capitalize on, and then you don't get the credit. So I totally
Yeah,
understand how you have to protect yourself.
yeah.
I heard that you, in one of your interviews, that you had started in telecommunications. So tell me, do you want to say a little bit about like how maybe you were in that world and you're like, this is absolutely
Yeah,
not working?
yeah. So yeah, this is what it is. Pretty much, again, my family has always been against my decisions of being an artist. So I actually
Hmm.
did almost like secret for a few years. I was not talking about it. I was just working at night doing my things, and nobody knew. I was doing side jobs, and especially my father always was against that idea because he believed that I will fail, that I was not good enough.
Hmm.
And like he didn't want me to being poor and not having a decent life. So he
Hmm.
wanted to study, and I wanted to study art, and he didn't allow me. I did few courses here and there just on my own on my dime, but nothing really like a real serious school. He didn't allow me to do that. So
Hmm.
and I questioned myself many times. So maybe I thought that maybe he's right. So maybe I should listen to him. He's more experienced than me. So let's do what he says I should do. And I went to university for, college for telecommunications. And then when I graduated, I worked in a big firm for
Hmm.
a good amount of 2 hours. And then I quit. I realized that I'm 21 and I cannot do this for the next
Wow.
years, 50 years. There's no way. I'd rather challenge myself and try and fail. If I
Hmm.
fail, at least I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I tried. I couldn't succeed. I was not good enough for whatever reason I could find. But I will live with myself because, I would like, I tried. And
Right.
okay, I'm a human being. I can fail. Right? That's why I started doing my own thing. And then I decided that I need to invest in myself. And I created my motto pretty much. Like my
Hmm.
is in life in general, even as a human being. Like when you want to try to succeed in something, whatever that could be, see the challenge as a huge oak tree. Um, and I need to take it down and have an axe. If I keep swinging the axe sooner or later the tree will fall. Some people can make it fall with just one swing. Some others take 10, maybe some take 1,000. But if you keep at it, it will fall. So just do it. Make sure that you improve yourself every day. Be better as a technician, as an artist, and as whatever it is in your field. As a person, as a human being, hopefully as well. I believe that it's worth it as well. But if you try to be better little by little, you will become better. You will be much better than the average. And then maybe have somebody who has a specific talent in your field and could be better than you, but you will be better than most. And that's good enough if you want to succeed in any field. So that's really the way that I see life in general. And I try to do that working on myself psychologically and as a human being as well, for my family, for my wife, for my son, and everything.
So for you, in your company, are you the sole proprietor, but do you have a staff, or do you try to manage everything on your own? And
I manage
tell me how that goes.
I manage everything on my own. I used to have a bigger crew when I was living in Italy. Then I decided to move, and they did not want to, so I left them there, and I gave them some of my business, like especially youth projects, so they keep doing, little smaller projects, but still very profitable and very good. But I still call them over once or twice a year when I have some bigger projects that I need some force. They come over. On a general basis, it's me and my helper, David. It's just the two of us. I create, when I do need to create art pieces, I do them on my own most of the time. But then when we do the installations on site, he comes over with me and we do, everything that we need to do. So I can only take over one project at a time. I believe that's the best way to make sure that the highest quality is there and there's no other issues, because if you manage many things, then you need a crew, you can't control them all the time. I owned my skills in many years, and I know what I can create and what I can produce. And could I make more money? Yes. If I have many projects, yes. The quality will be compromised. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter what some people are telling you. There's no way that you can produce the same highest quality possible if you have a bunch of other people working for you. There's just no way.
Right. And then it kind of gets away from that, which, because you are the artist, you're creating this and you have to oversee it. You can't just like delegate that aspect, I'd imagine.
I touch every single tile in my projects.
Wow.
One, from start to finish.
Speaking of that, you had mentioned, or I saw that you prefer glass. Like, why is that? And what else is there? I mean, other than ceramic, what else is there to use? Stone?
Doing a lot of pools, glass is the most durable, and it's completely waterproofing. The colors, the range of colors is obviously much bigger than stones. But it's really the durability, the way that you can cut it. It cuts easily compared to stones and more precisely. And again, the range of colors that you can get really allows you to create amazing stuff. All the shadow things that we can do. So I really prefer that. And stones are subject to chemicals, reactions. With obviously a pool has chlorine and salt, and algae that they can develop if they're not the water is not treated well. So if an algae attacks glass surface, you just clean it up. If it attacks marble or white stone, that's a big problem. The stone will get affected, and there's no way that you can restore it to the original beauty.
So wow. So I guess it gets in the pores.
Yeah, in a pool, I always recommend glass or, gold applied to glass or other precious materials applied to glass, but not really natural stones or marbles. It's not the best solution.
Now, you may have covered it when we just talked about glass as opposed to the different types, but is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, the most important thing is to be able to succeed in creating a project in a pool with tiles, especially Mosaic. When you have a Mosaic or small glass tile, you have to think about the thousands of lines of grout lines that you have between one chip and the other. And they're all under pressure from the water that tries to sneak behind it, right? And the vessel, most of the time, granite or shotcrete is a cement base, which is very porous. So if water gets into the cement, it will create a huge damage. It will delaminate the tiles over time and be like, even few months into the new pool that you will start seeing delamination. And you obviously want to,
Wow.
so preparation to make things right, it has to be prepping the surface to make it nice and smooth and possible and, leveled and balanced and, equal and even. Then on top of it, you need a very good waterproofing system. And then on top of it, using the right materials. I believe, in my experience, that certain epoxy adhesives are the best because of the flexibility that they provide and durability under stress and under pressure. Bond really well on cementitious materials and on glass as well. So it really creates a great bonding. And then grouting also with epoxy grouts, which, chemistry is our ally today. In the last years, new products were created that are much better than the older ones. Especially,
Right.
the beginning, the epoxies were like really, really rough to be able to work with and very difficult. The window of time to be able to apply was super short. And then if the temperature was a little, above the 70 degrees was a huge issue. Will dry right away in the bucket. Improved, this by a mile. So today we have amazing products with a big range of qualities, and they're much fairly easier to work with, and they give you durability if you apply them with the right techniques. So that's very important things. Making sure that you know the products, you know exactly what you're doing, that you know exactly all the steps, and you don't skip any of them. You need to cross all the T's and dot all the I's to make sure that you don't leave any stone unturned. You check, every box to make sure that everything is done correctly, and that then you will have a successful final result. That's why having a professional that has the knowledge to apply this is key. You can't have a regular tile guy. You need to have a specialized tile guy for pools because they know all the materials, they know how they react, all the prep, all the steps that you need to do to make sure that everything is perfect. Or, I mean, I don't like using the word perfect. It's stupid in my opinion because there's no perfection. There's no perfection when you use two hands. There's no perfection, okay? But we need to try to be as close as possible and make sure that, we do all the right things and take all the right actions and steps to make sure that it's very good product at the end and good durability. And if you do that, then you will have a successful final result. But again, it's very pricey because you have somebody who spends a lot of time, uses the right materials, which are not cheap. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
But I believe that if you invest a lot of money in having a beautiful product in your pool, you have to protect it. And the best way to protect it is really using, a technician that uses the right materials. And, this is cheap. So a lot of people are afraid and that they use a local guy that does regular tile installation and is probably much cheaper because he doesn't even know how to create, or do a pool because he's never done it or just done it a couple of times. But, you get the result that you pay.
Right. People that have some of these bigger catastrophes, whether they're you do it yourself or whether they've hired somebody who maybe does something else, but says, yeah, I can take on that tile project. And they don't really have that experience, background. Exactly. Then, something that you think would, oh, it's just a bathroom. Oh, it's just a backsplash or whatever, oh, it's just a pool. You could look at it, but there is a reason why there are trained professional craftspeople who do this, because it could go off the rails in a lot of different places. You were talking about here, like how you approach your projects. And I was looking at that article that you'd sent over to me about, like how you sit down with the client and you get their inspiration as far as like what they're looking for. And then, then it's your artistic vision matched with the technical part about doing this, but do you want to talk a little bit more about how you approach a project?
Yeah, usually you need to, I try to evaluate, how to start based on who I'm dealing with. Am I dealing directly with the final client, or is there an architect or a designer involved as
Mm-hmm.
well, which is always, important to involve them, because you want to know what their vision is as well. Since you want to make sure that, especially you want to make sure that your final product is well suited into what the designer or the architect vision is of the overall project, right? You don't want
Right.
to create a beautiful swimming pool that doesn't make any sense with the rest of the house. So you want to make sure that you create something that has the same feeling, and then it complements the rest of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk to them, you try to figure out what they're doing, and then it's a discussion. So I like to sit down with everybody involved in the project and trying to understand what their vision is, what they're trying to create, the whole project, what I can, like, using my expertise designing wise, what I can add to the whole equation.
Right.
And I want to try to enhance not just my pool, but also the rest of the features that they are in the environment. And then make sure that we use a style that makes sense with the rest of the house, that the client likes, using colors that are complementary to everything else and they bond well. Uh, so we start pretty much with an interview. I like to start with everybody that's involved and trying to understand, see what their project is, what they brought to the table, what they're trying to achieve, and then having a discussion. And then I throw ideas based on the feedbacks that I have from them. And then we'll see what sticks. And, so I make a couple of designs based on the first interview, and then we see what they like better, and we start elaborating in that direction, and we develop that until we find finally exactly what makes them happy, what makes me happy, and
Mm-hmm.
all on board. And then there's the final approval. Once that it's in place, I start selecting the right materials. Some of them, I buy, some of them I just create the glass itself, and then I put it together, and I create the art pieces. If there is an art piece, sometimes there's not. I like even very nice and easy, elegant, but simple, subtle pools with just maybe like a gold line that enhances the steps, or the water line, something like that. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but I also can go that way as well. And then, when we finalize everything, I have the materials. I start putting it together in my workshop, creating the whole things, sheets or art pieces themselves. And then I ship everything on the job site. I take over the preparation of the pool, the waterproofing, and then installation, grouting, cleaning, expansion joints, especially in areas in the north, northeast, or Midwest where it freezes during winter.
Right.
Unless it's an indoor pool, which you still need some expansion joints, but not as many or as big as an outdoor pool. And then we also give our advice to whoever takes care of the pool as far as, cleaning, water treatment, and all that stuff. So that's pretty much how the overall
The
process.
process.
Yeah.
What has been one of and again, you mentioned that you've done some projects for, the Vatican and,
Yeah, a lot
Putin
of
of
people that
Russia.
I prefer not to name for, privacy
Yeah.
purposes, but a lot of famous people, a lot of powerful people in a
Mm-hmm.
way sometimes. But, some were very challenging because the situation, like working in the Vatican, was rough. A lot of security. You couldn't work every time you wanted, just certain hours. And then you have to respect, if there was a mass or some sort of like function,
Oh, right.
whatever. And, that's bringing in and out materials was not easy. Everything had to be inspected. And, all the timing were extended because of this. And
Oh,
so, yeah. Or
so for that project, was it a mural or was it something
well,
else?
no, I
Or
did a lot of restorations. They had a lot of
oh, okay.
ancient mosaics, so I did a lot of restorations and try to
Mm.
bring them back to the original look, and adding new tessera. Tessera is the technical name of a small chip of
Mm-hmm.
mosaic. So trying to use the same kind of stone and same kind of colors, the same kind of restoring it to the original beauty, because time damages everything, and we're talking about thousands of years. So obviously, there's the wear and tear of centuries.
Good old-fashioned time. That's
Yeah.
right. Was that kind of a surprising project for you to get? I mean, here you are doing your own creations from scratch, but there's this opportunity to
Well,
restore
I
something.
already some restoration in smaller churches around my areas here and
Oh,
there. Then a little bigger, and then a bigger church, and then another bigger church in Florence. So my name started being out there until I got the call from the Vatican, and then little by little, then you find a bigger projects, and then you do it well. So then your name is out there,
mm-hmm.
and then you start moving ahead.
Why is it important to choose someone who understands talent and not just somebody who just randomly does home improvement type projects?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that important?
Well, because first of all, again, we're talking about, certain level of projects. So there's a lot of money involved and invested.
Mm-hmm.
So the comparison is your dream car is a Rolls Royce. Then the Rolls Royce needs to be serviced, right? You don't go to the mechanic around the corner. You will be silly to do that. You want to have an expert that knows the Rolls Royce in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with tiles in a pool. You want to have a technician that knows exactly what the needs are and the materials are and the techniques that need to be applied for these materials. So a regular tile guy can do your pool in maybe 2 weeks, and it will take me maybe 2 months, because there's a process that needs to be followed and a lot of materials that a regular tile guy doesn't even know about. And then again, these materials are way more expensive than the regular materials that the regular tile guy uses. And then also there's the fair reward for your knowledge and your skills.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be,
Expertise.
yeah, we are experts, so we're not charging $15 an hour, obviously. So that's why it's important to have someone that knows what he's doing.
How has it been for you to be in the United States, and how long have you been here now? How is it working here?
Yeah, so I moved in 2008, and it took me a while to figure out exactly how to work here and to make a name out, for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Europe, it really happened organically. And I was here in the States because of a project that came from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Previous projects that I did for these companies proved my skills. So they hired me to do this huge project that lasted a long time. And then I was here, and I never thought about moving to the United States, to be honest. Never had any clue of doing that. I was already traveling the world doing all my projects, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I wanted to stay in Italy or going somewhere else, but I didn't need to move. I could just take a flight and go wherever I was working. But then I was
True.
here for so long, and that love struck me, and, my future wife, and I decided to move. She was still doing her own thing and figuring out what she wanted to do. So I thought that she would be a little too challenging for her to move to Italy, another country, another language, and different point of views. And I was already a world traveler. So I was not scared. I was like, all right, I can do it. So then I closed my company in Italy, and it took me a while to, for the papers, to do everything here and starting from scratch, and then figuring out that here I needed marketing, which I did not need in Europe. In Europe, word of mouth. Here, it doesn't matter how good you are, if you don't have the right marketing supporting your skills, you don't go very far. And it took me a while to figure that out, and I struggled a lot. I couldn't understand. I was like, I know how good I am, but why don't I have the right projects, or not so much work like somebody that I see that does not even have the skill to do? And then I was like, okay, so that guy has a very powerful marketing behind him. So maybe that's the key. So I started working on that. I'm still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm doing really well today, but it took me many years to to reach this point, and it's interesting.
But I can see why. I mean, the country being as big as it is here in the United States, and then, just being different as far as the way that it works. Do you find that like your website or does social media, what
Yeah,
seems
a
to
little bit
generate the
here and
best for
there,
you?
like yeah, just promoting it the right way, trying to be in the face of the right people. Um, uh, definitely, all the things combined. So social media,
Hmm.
the website is a portal, right? But it doesn't open doors. Like you have to have people walking to the door to see the website. So social media definitely could help, which, I'm still improving, still getting better at it. But also, obviously having some nice articles and podcasts. I've been, in many podcasts lately. This is the last one, and I still have another 4 in line in the next
Hmm.
2 3 weeks. So that's like a new venture for me. I don't know how good I could be. My English is still not perfect, obviously.
Actually, I think your English is really good. Did you know English before you got here?
Well, very little.
Minimal. Yeah.
That was one of the struggles with my wife at the beginning. Like, obviously we couldn't really go deep into big thoughts. So we kind of like trusted that, hopefully we liked each other. Obviously there was some special chemistry, but I wasn't sure what she was telling me. And I'm sure she felt the same. So,
Like if you were to name a top three projects in your mind that were the
well,
most gratifying for you.
well, a lot of them. It's hard to say the top, but definitely a lot of celebrities, a lot of powerful people, former presidents from the United States
Really?
and in other governments, other countries. But also that I can name, definitely the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas and the one in Macau, the Wynn and the Encore in Macau, the Crown Hotel in Melbourne, the Burj Al Arab, the famous sail-shaped hotel in Dubai, uh, Burj Khalifa, the tall tower in Dubai, and then the beautiful project in the islands of Seychelles for the Story Hotel, the Dominic Hotel in New York City.
I've seen some stuff on your website. Are they featured on your website? Some of the work
Some
that
of
you've
them
done?
not, because I'm not the best in updating my website. Actually, yeah, I have an Italian guy working on my website right now. So there will be
Hmm.
8 or 10 projects that will be updated in the next 2 3 weeks. You can definitely follow more my stuff on Instagram because I updated myself. I also have a couple of guys that are helping me in some of the posts. So my Instagram is definitely more updated. Some of them I cannot because I signed a lot of NDAs for privacy
Yeah.
purposes. So unfortunately, a lot of the most beautiful projects cannot be featured, but it's the nature of the game.
I know it's just like zip the lip. You can't talk about it. So, would you say that on the whole, you do more pools than murals or
Yes.
any type of art? Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Ninety
That's
percent.
your specialty.
90% fools. The reason why, there's a specific reason. I love doing big murals, right?
Hmm.
But what gives me the best feeling is knowing that after I finished my craft, people are not just enjoying looking at the thing, but they're using it. They're having fun with it.
Ah.
So it's a functional art.
Hmm.
A lot of my clients, they call me back after, a few years or months, and they tell me and they show me a video that they're there in their pool with their family, their friends. They're having a huge celebration or a wedding or whatever. They have, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people because some of these properties are huge. And they
Wow.
share it with me and they tell me, you don't understand how thankful for having you here. Look how beautiful your pool is, and we love it, and we're enjoying. I'm having all these friends that I love, all this family that I love, and they're having fun with what you created for me. That gives me the goosebump every
Wow.
day just thinking about it. It's almost like an addiction. Like when I have motivation, I feel high. It's just beautiful knowing that I created something that's, besides being beautiful, it's also has a big functionality and people are having fun with it. It's awesome.
And like it could last generations, which
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
another legacy aspect of it too.
In fact, recently, a lot of clients are starting to ask to put my name in the pools. So there's already one big project that I did recently, which they're so happy with the result that asked me to put a 5 feet long name signature in the pool to show who created.
Oh.
And then I have another big one coming, which the client wanted to have my name in the pool in gold, 24 karat gold. So that's
wow, that's exciting.
yeah.
How does your family feel now about what you did? I don't know if your father is still living or,
No,
you
my
know, what.
father passed many years ago.
Mm,
Till the end, he was opposed to it, and so that's unfortunate. My mother still doesn't believe it, to be honest. Uh, yeah, she's like, it's impossible. People don't pay you to fly around. No, she just had, she's 89. She has an old world view.
mm,
So, it's okay. I made peace with it. It took me,
yeah.
30 years pretty much to prove them wrong. At this point, I'm in peace with myself. I just saw how good my life is. I have a wonderful partner, a beautiful kid. We're happy. We travel the world. We see everything. I mean, what's better than that?
That's incredibly blessed life.
My son's
Hmm.
name is Hendrix, in mention, honor of Jimi Hendrix. A big rock and roll fan. Always been and always will. Rock for life. So, and I created a mosaic of Jimi Hendrix in honor of him.
Oh,
Then that started my next, little projects that I have. I create famous icon of rock and roll or like pop, music and movies. I created Marilyn Monroe. I created The Godfather with Marlon Brando.
oh, wow.
Dining with Jack Nicholson, Prince, John Lennon.
Anybody who's looking to start their career
Yeah.
and doing work like you do as an artisan, as a technician, and someone who's creating
Yeah.
works of art, what
It-
advice would you give them?
well, first of all, it's very difficult. Obviously, it's a long journey, but believe in yourself, push yourself to the limits. Make sure that every day you wake up, you know that you need to do everything possible to be better than the day before. So the journey is long, but if you do that, you have that mentality in every aspect of it, and read and try to, teach yourself and educate yourself to the best of your abilities. That's a big help. If you have that mindset, you will succeed. As I said, if you keep doing the right things, you will get better.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the same pace of the next guy, but you will get better. And if you keep working on your craft, you will succeed. You will be successful. You will be in the 100% of the best people in your field. And then maybe you're not be the top, you're not be number one, but even number 3 or number 5 is good enough. So just keep at it. You develop
Right.
your own style. You develop
You
your
got to have your
and
own.
you add your own ideas and technique, and that's the beauty of it. You don't want to be a copycat of somebody else.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
want to
you got
create
it. You
your
can
own.
be inspired.
Yeah, exactly. So the technical aspect is very important. So you need to know that. You need to learn how to do all that stuff, but then you need to make your own thing, and you just create your own style.
Your own style. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Danilo, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the audience to look at this, and just up your tile game.